Welcome, everybody. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. Today, we're celebrating one of our newest books, The Ancestors Within: Discover and Connect with Your Ancient Origins. Y'all, this is the second book in a really powerful series. And today, as you can see, I have 4 of the amazing author experts here with me to share their wisdom. But first, I really want to give a big thank you to our lead author, Amy Gillespie Doherty. You guys, she's bringing the world's leading experts in ancestral healing together in this book series and has a big mission to change the world with these powerful stories and tools you guys are going to hear about today. So thank you, Amy, for bringing these amazing humans together. We are excited to bring this information to the world. So, hey, authors, thanks for being here. I'm excited that you're here today. So you guys, Ariel is the Ariel of the Collective Consultation. She's interpreting the vibrational communications of all that is non-physical in a one-on-one consultation format. I have Ariane Thomas, an author, speaker, and international healer using ancestral lineage clearing to clear generational family patterns that interfere with health, success, and relationships. Dana Louise Williams is the CEO of In Rapport with You, Soul Mission Mentoring and Coaching Services, and is the creator of the Solar Healing Method and the Solar Healing Method card deck for healers and therapists. And lastly, Crystal Rasmussen is a professionally trained and certified generational healing teacher and spiritual guide who supports clients in healing by releasing suffering from their ancient bloodline. Y'all, look who I get to play in the sandbox with every day. Like, thank you guys for being here. So we're going to start the party with Ariel. Tell me about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Well, it's all about allowing a new definition of your ancestors to come through versus perhaps what you've held on to. Often that comes through hearsay, which trickles down through the generations. And it's all about letting that go to allow something new to unfold for you.
So Ariel, when, I'm thinking, okay, she's going to give me a different way to think about this. So what would maybe an older way of thinking be about it? Like what are you shifting me to here?
Well, often there's a story that unfolds across a family's lineage, and each one is interpreted through a different lens. And this is about allowing your own lens to see clearly. So what I hear to say is reducing the static that's fallen into the line across the generations. It's very interesting. They even discussed the Depression and how that came to be, which was entirely new information for me to discover that. So
when our filter gets clogged,
yeah.
What are some of the things in it? So as our listeners and viewers are hearing you talk about this, they're going to feel themselves and hear themselves in what we talk about today. And I'm just thinking, okay, I think I know a couple of things that clogged my own filter, but what are some of the examples of that?
So one of the most popular is someone was abusive. Well, everybody has a story. And everyone is a creator. And even though they may allow in the painful, they're also creating the exalted. So if you're tapping into something that's less than exalted, there's something more waiting for you. So it's all about unclouding so that you can see that clearly, so that you can allow it in, because they're always sending it in. And with our held perspectives, sometimes it's hard to allow something new to unfold. So And the way they've taught me to do that, the collective, and the way they've taught me to do that, it's about just kind of letting go for a while and allowing a time of peace so that something new can begin to trickle in. So in the chapter, I describe a woman from my own lineage who was steeped in the vibration of lack, and it became pervasive in her life, and that trickled down through generations. And so she reveals something completely different through the writing of this chapter and the session that I was doing when it came through.
Thank you for that example. And I know that is going to hit home with a lot of people to hear. And really, y'all, I'll say thank you to all of you for not only just saying yes to this project, but then stepping up to give us these very powerful, authentic stories that you've lived through. You know, you guys walking the walk and being the example and just helping us feel not alone with what has gone on in our lives. I appreciate all of you for doing that so brilliantly. So Ariane, would you share your about your chapter next?
Certainly. I wrote chapter 5 on ancestral family healing, clearing past pain to open up for a brilliant future. We inherit our genes from our ancestors. Of course, that's where our genetic code comes from. And with that, we inherit a lot of their pain and suffering and their wounds. And oftentimes we manifest that in our lives. But we don't have to continue that pattern in our family and in the subsequent generations. And the work I do is through shamanic journeying. I take people back to the original ancestor where those patterns were established. And that original ancestor comes forward and goes, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize what I was doing." And we shift the energy in that past time and place. And we bring positive energy into the future and establish that in your life now, in the present, to turn off those negative genes, to turn on positive genes for yourself, your children, and all the future generations.
So if you haven't heard, these genes can be shifted, y'all. Like, I think when I first realized what I was reading and hearing about and everyone was talking about, when I first realized that, like, the mind blowingness of this is large, right? What else do you want to say about that, Ariane?
Well, the old science was, here are your genes, you're stuck with them, and too bad, live with it. All right. Health, success, relationships. Ariel was talking about lack. We all come from backgrounds of slavery, invasion, serfdom, oppression, and what science has now learned in the past 25 years since they've been studying the human genome is that every one of us has the ability to change our belief system and turn off all of those negative genes, turn off the suffering and the memories we've inherited from our ancestors, and to turn on the positive genes that we are all born with for success, for happiness, for joy, and for positive relationships, because that's our divine right.
I love that. It's time to turn on our happiness genes, y'all, all of us. There is hope for everybody. Thank you, Ariane. Deanna, tell us about your amazing chapter. And let me get you to unmute first. Love that Zoom and stuff, I know.
Thank you, Laura. My chapter is chapter 4. It's called Your Ancestors, Your Archetypes, and Your Inner Child. You are the medicine and the method that you seek. And in my chapter, I discuss how we all have inherent gifts and talents, and I heard a interview years and years ago that was discussing adults that were the happiest adults were the people that became the career that they wanted to be when they were growing up. And that really made a lot of sense to me. And I fulfilled all my archetypal dreams so far. And I understand that if I'm good at something, it's because there's a gift that really wants to be fed. And I learned how to feed my archetypes. And so that's why I get to be a healer and a mother and an equestrian and all those good things.
I love that. But what if I wanted to be the bionic woman? Come on now.
We can rebuild you.
I like thinking about this a lot, because y'all are just going to chuckle when I tell you that the thing that my sister and I played together was library. Okay, so here we are with multiple books being published some odd years later, and I really have to laugh at that. We've had great conversations about that. So Dana, what else do you want to tell us about that journey? Like in terms of pointing yourself in the direction of that. A lot of us just get stuck and we don't even know there's a choice.
Yeah. Well, I always knew from a very early age that I was a healer and that I was a visionary. I could see things that other people couldn't see. And so basically, I was starkly aware of what was not mine more than I was aware of what was mine. And little bit by little bit, I matured into being able to discern what was eclipsing me that wasn't mine, because I was actually co-creating through the eclipse, the energy that was kind of, you know, the filter got so full that the filter became an identity. And then it was so obvious that I had to start chipping away at that because it wasn't the truth.
Yes. And I want our listeners to feel, you know, one of my favorite questions ever is what else is possible here? And you have to be in a place of not feeling so good to maybe begin to ask the bigger questions, but you're reminding me of that. Just being able to ask that question. Appreciate the way that you are describing your personal experience with it. Okay, so Crystal, let's move to you. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi, Laura. My chapter is chapter 23, and it's Heal Yourself, Your Family from Inherent Generational Trauma. And so, as we heard earlier, we carry the traumas and the pain and suffering from our ancestors before, and they affect us emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually even. And when I first learned this work and came into it, I loved it. I absolutely loved communicating with the ancestors and offering healing to them, themselves, for the pain and suffering they had within their lives. And what was really beautiful is when we heal ancestral trauma and heal ourselves, we also release that density from the earth. So we're healing the earth. And that's, you know, my chapter talks about how the earth and the beings of the earth were speaking to me, asking me to step into this work more, to be able to heal them, and but also the ancestors and the lineages and the ripple effects that take place for people.
Do you remember when you were hearing that calling for maybe some of the first times?
I do. I was in the Black Hills in South Dakota. I mean, land has always spoken to me. The earth has always spoken to me. But there was a moment I was sitting in construction and, you know, waiting to take that one way route around construction, and the trees just started talking and sharing and about, you need to step up, we need you. And it brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't deny who I was anymore and what I wanted to do, regardless of the fear. And so I recognized too, like there was all of this fear, but it wasn't just mine. It was also my ancestors, from them not stepping into their dreams either. And so I really had to recognize that, I can no longer hold myself back, and I need to share with the world and live my purpose.
Oh my gosh, you guys. So Crystal is talking about a ninja move of awareness here. Like, and it's the discernment between a certain kind of fear and another kind of fear. It's feeling the purpose underneath you, and that overpowers the fear. These are awareness tools. This is such a perfect segue into the next question for all of you. I'm going to start with Ariane with this one though. So, I look at all of these tools as awareness tools. Anything that helps us understand ourselves and the world around us can give us these gifts. They truly are gifts. What I'd love to hear about, Ariane, is what's your personal practice look like of that awareness? You guys can go in so many different directions with this answer, but on the day-to-day, give us an idea of what this looks like for you.
That's a wonderful question, because I think everyone has a different practice. I have several practices. First of all, I meditate twice a day. I also have a gratitude practice. I wake up in the morning, and before I go to bed at night, I am aware of all of these things in my life and the people in my life that I am grateful for. And particularly after I come out of my meditation, it's like the world is such a wonderful place, that I'm grateful for the hummingbirds and the clouds in the sky and my cat and my home and my friends and my family, and I just go on. And I also try to live in mindfulness. I try to walk in the world being aware of my impact on the world and on others. And that particularly shows up when I work with clients, because it just opens my heart and my spirit to what I can do in the world to help shift the energy.
Thank you for sharing. The gratitude hits home, I think, with all of us. It's such a powerful practice in all of the different ways. You're just making me think of this past week. There are 2 separate days this past week. One was a beautiful, bright blue, sunshiny sky. The other day was beautiful, amazing rain. And both of those days I just looked up to the sky and said, thank you. Like, so it's up to us to be grateful for all of it and recognize those miracles in all of it, right? Yes, beautiful. So, okay, Dana, tell me a little bit about what this practice looks like in your day.
Okay, well, my life has changed because of a bad eye surgery that I had 6 years ago, and I'm blind in what used to be my good seeing eye. So I spend a lot of time in nature. We live in British Columbia. I'm just a stone's throw away from my favorite old growth trees. So my practice is staying out of victimhood, basically, and being very grateful for what I can still see and experience. So my life is really rich because everything is so humorous, basically. I make myself laugh all the time. I have a 2.5-year-old golden doodle puppy, and I'll go out for my walk and I'll be calling and calling and calling, and I'll go into a panic. Oh my goodness, where's my dog? And he'll be sitting right beside me looking at me, and I'll be like, okay. So my practice is keeping humor in my life and being grateful for what I have. My joy is working with my clients, and my life is very full. So I have a lot of gratitude.
Thank you. There's nothing like the pets to keep us grounded and centered in awesomeness. I love my dogs. Crystal, how about you? What does this daily practice look like to you? And also, I wanted to ask all of you, Ariane mentions that she meditates twice a day. And I was sitting here thinking in my head, ooh, she used the M word, right? So like everyone, I wonder, so do you all meditate? Raise a hand. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Halfway. I think meditation gets scary for people, right? But I think in the world of healthcare, especially alternative and holistic healthcare practitioners and coaches, you are going to find straight across the board that we all have some kind of M word practice, whether it's mindfulness, being mindful of the gratitude, sit down meditation, whatever kind of M you want to use. I think that everybody does that. So, Crystal, tell me about your practice.
Yeah, so I do begin the morning walking my dog. So I'm in nature right away, immediately. And I really focus on grounding myself and centering myself in the morning, really being grounded in my body and to the earth. I feel like that helps me stay connected to all that's around. And I definitely spend a lot of time in nature, but I also, more than just meditation, I set aside time to just listen. So there's really just this listening practice that I have with my open heart. What do I need to do today? How can I show up and serve today? What are the ancestors asking of me today? What does the earth need from me today? And really following what I receive versus just pushing it away and I'll do that later, like really listening to how I need to show up for my clients, for the ancestors, for the earth, and for myself. There's really been a lot of self-care that I've started doing lately too, which has been phenomenal for me. So really looking at what can I say no to, and what do I really want to say yes to? Because I used to want to do all the things, and now it's, well, what can I do that's going to honor myself and the work that I do in a much bigger way.
You're talking about a listening practice, and you're coupling it with a powerful questioning practice. So there's two things, yes, I'm hearing you talk about, because you could just sit around and listen, but you're asking profound questions, and then you're opening your heart to whatever the answer might be. Then you're opening to listening. Yeah. Did you want to say anything else about that?
It really brings huge awareness in when you're available to ask those questions rather than just going through the day. But you look at, okay, so, how do I want to show up today? And what's going to feed my heart and soul today? And then following through, it's really, it can change your day instantly.
That is a recipe for a badass day when you start it like that. I love it. And I love hearing about all of your practices for that reason. Also, just love to give our viewers ideas of the ways they can incorporate these little magical moments in terms of setting up their own day for something a little bit better, maybe than what they feel like they're experiencing. Ariel, how about yours? Tell us.
Well, I make an intentional point to savor what I awaken with. So I always carve time into my day that when I awaken, I have 10 or 15 minutes to just be still. And what I hear to say is wallow in the vibration I woke up with. So then I immediately go outside and go into appreciation. All of you use the term gratitude. I use the term appreciation, but I'm sure it's a very similar technique. I sit and write about appreciation. And every day it's something new. And often we'll begin with something absurdly basic. And before I know it, it's so graphic and detailed that without even meaning to, I've shifted into a state of connection and I'm communicating interactively and knowing where I'm going. So I just, from there, I take that connection throughout the day. And somewhere in all of this, I stop and meditate.
The M word again.
Yeah. And if I notice that something's kind of knocked me off a little bit, maybe a curveball in my day, and I feel like that connection's not quite as strong, I stop and meditate. So, which of course, all of that is just ever so uplifting, in a very graduating way. So, and when all else fails, I pet my dog.
Mm, I love that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Sounds like a lot of us are pet lovers.
Yes.
So, okay, so I've got another question for all of you. I'm going to start with Dana for this one. And it's really evident from your chapters and from hearing you talk about this topic of the ancestors that this has been a transformational tool for all of you. At different levels, it's been life-changing, which is exciting. It's what makes these books so exciting, because we're putting all of you together in all of your different voices and ways of explaining it and teaching your tools. And that can be really, really transformational for some of our viewers. And we've had a couple of rough years, and people are listening and they're still possibly stuck. They're still feeling whatever they're feeling, right? Wow, it's been interesting. So, Dana, what I want you to do is talk to me about how connecting with our ancestors might be the tool that could help somebody in that feeling that they're having right now, just feeling stuck in life or all the things that have been going on.
Well, I would say, first of all, if you check in with the energy of whatever that dense feeling is, ask, is this mine or is this someone else's? And if that ancestor is in spirit and you are animating a lineage wound that is just repeating and repeating and repeating through generations, it's your opportunity to heal that. And when I work with my clients, there's a lot of generational healing that happens, and we will bring that ancestor in, and that person will talk to the ancestor and even become the ancestor in that little movie. And they will get a psychic hit on what that person was experiencing in that moment of abuse or perhaps disregard. And my client will, then the love will return to them, because they realize that energy isn't even theirs, and that person was doing the best they could. And I also, I have an affinity for the inner child. And when I work with my clients and we bump into some ancestral stuff, I hear what the inner child needs to hear the adult say out loud. And as soon as they say it, it's a truth that might be the ancestor's truth. And then they'll go, oh my gosh, this isn't mine. or they'll go, it is mine and I need to own it. And so what we basically do is we bring that inner child back home, and then the person can start operating from their own true essence. And when they operate through their true essence, everybody gets a ripple effect healing. 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, whether you have children or not. And so it's a good thing to do your healing work.
Oh my goodness. If I go down this rabbit hole about the 7 generations, we may be here for like another week. But this is a theme that comes through for in several of our interviews, and I want our listeners to understand about that. But I think summarizing it is just about the profound opportunity that we have to heal, not only in our moment, but through, forward and back. And if you just pause for a moment to think about that, it's a big deal. And that's why I get so excited about the way that you guys are helping people understand it. Because these are sometimes people who are listening to just hearing these things for the very first time and waking up to the fact that, oh, you know what? I think there might be something I could do here, where they were feeling pretty hopeless before. That's a big deal, you guys. Y'all are so badass this way, really. Thank you, Dana. So Crystal, how about you with this one? You know, someone who's still kind of feeling stuck. Why would ancestral kind of healing and connection be a way that could help them now? How does that work?
Oh my gosh, I could talk about this for
I know.
so long.
I know.
Laura, I actually just had a training. I held a training to teach other women how to do generational healing and facilitate it and communicate with the ancestors. And what happened for each of them as they received healings and as they facilitated healings, they changed drastically. Oh my gosh. By the time they had left, they were so much happier. They had broken codependent cycles. They had found their voice and really felt more empowered and confident. They began to trust themselves, and what they were receiving and what they wanted to do. So they started standing up for themselves, setting stronger and healthier boundaries. Abundance started showing up. Relationships changed. Oh my gosh, and just happier and free. Even one of them had noticed a difference within her daughter. Her 7-year-old daughter even was like, hey mom, I feel so much more independent now. You know, so when you're healing with your ancestors, there's that density that then gets to be released. So you're not carrying so much. You know, that's one of the things that I hear the most from my clients is, I feel so much lighter. I feel more peaceful. I feel free. I feel more myself than I ever have. And so it's really beautiful to watch that, not only within their lives, but the ripple effect that takes place for their family and out within the world.
I am loving the list you just made for us.
Yes.
And I know that y'all who are listening are just like, oh yeah, that empowerment feeling. Oh yeah, that lighter feeling. And yes, with the exclamation point for that list.
Yes, it's huge. It makes me smile so much and just warms my heart when they're like, oh my gosh, all of this changed just after one session or after a training. It's just so incredible to what can transpire when you're healing your ancestors.
Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome.
Ariel, how about you on this one? So, you know, y'all are talking about it in different kinds of ways. I want people to understand what's possible when they open themselves up to the idea of this topic, the ancestral connection. is a profound possibility. Maybe they've never even heard of this, Ariel. Like if you're going to tell them, what's possible here, how would you put it?
So are we still on the subject of the rough couple of years? or are
Yeah.
we moving- Okay.
Yeah, they're still
So-
feeling stuck.
Okay. So what I hear to say about that is when we just pause and begin to look for the gifts within it, hidden perhaps within it from our current vibrational stance. That vibrational stance always has its own unique perspective. And when you're stuck way down here in the vibration of devastation, it's very difficult to see the gift that was awaiting you all along. I know a certain publisher who was not a publisher, but through these rough couple of years has become a successful publisher. And I'm honored to be in association with her. There's always a gift. There's never an accident. It simply doesn't happen that way. Everything is matched for a reason. And in my chapter, I reference languages of the non-physical, languages of humanity. So all of us girls are speaking different languages, all to the same effect, in essence. And when you pause and look for that appreciation, it's a vibrational language of its own, which is kind of my field of expertise, the vibrational languages, in which you're asking the non-physical for assistance to this question. They always immediately respond, whether or not we're in the vibrational range and therefore willingness or even ability to perceive that assistance as a different subject. If we're allowing to let go, my chapter title, Letting Go Expanded, if they're willing to just loosen up that grip on what they're just sure they know, they make space for something new. And it allows our vibration to incrementally rise. And the higher that vibration goes, thoughts are vibrational, emotions are vibrational. Vibrational certainly applies to more than just, woo-woo subject matter. It's its own language, and you're asking for assistance, and it's always there and it's always available, but it's difficult to hear or perceive that or even allow it in. Often we don't even notice the things that come to us because we're so steeped in a specific vibration, a perceived knowing that really isn't. It's just a misunderstanding of sorts, perhaps a little more clouding to that vision. But when we practice things like the meditation daily, it allows all of that to sort of particulate and lift off. So I would say something about that, about these rough couple of years. If you look again, you may see something quite different. And with that, you allow momentum to build, and you start seeing more and more and more, and therefore attracting more and more and more of that which you wanted all along. So, I know that's tough for certain people to just feel okay with, to just allow something better in when you've been living a very difficult way for a long time. Sometimes it's a little awkward to let that go. I understand, truly.
I wrote this down from what you were saying. Loosen up the grip on what you think you know. And I would add on what you're making the feeling mean.
Yes, that definition is powerful. And I think regardless of the language you speak around such subject matter, we're all creators of some sort. Even if the only thing you can embrace is when I draw a picture, I created something. There's momentum to go from in that. Acknowledge that you drew that stick figure.
I love that. Let's doodle.
Yes.
I like it.
Hey, can I jump in?
Yes.
Speaking of doodle,
There she is with her doodles. Is that a snowman? Oh my goodness.
it's a snow. Yeah, it looks like a snowman, but
It does, with a heart, a broken heart. Oh,
this is what happens. We block ourselves off and protect our wounds, and we live in a feedback loop up here.
Yes.
And so I love what Ariel's talking about, with the pause, right? When I'm working with my clients, my foot's in the air, like I don't know where my other foot's going to be in a minute, but I can't take that next step. And I love the way you explained that to us. Like there's so many things going on in that pause. It's like there's a orchestra of different things that we could latch onto.
And
Thank you so much, Dana. And I'm not entirely sure that all that many people are aware of the strength of our ability to allow our own healing. So, but certainly that message is getting widespread now, isn't it? It's a lovely thing. And thank you all so much for that.
that's one of the missions of this book, you guys, that we cannot wait to share with you. Ariane, you are going to close out the show today. So talk a little bit about this idea in terms of people just still feeling their feels and they feel stuck, and how might ancestral connection help them right now?
I'm going to take a different approach, and I agree with everything that everyone else said. Okay, let's start off with that. But let's also recognize that we are the descendants of the survivors of plagues, illnesses, disasters, and traumas of the past. We're the descendants of the survivors. And so we have the strength and the courage of the survivors. And not only did we inherit the trauma and the disaster and the pain and suffering of our ancestor, we also inherited their gifts. We inherited their courage and their strength. So when we get to the point where we're stuck and where we're looking around and going, oh, the world is a disaster, these terrible things are going on, I can't get out of this, the pandemic is still raging, you can reach out to your ancestors and ask for help, because they have help for you. One of the things I always tell people to keep in mind is our ancestors love us. They want us to be successful and healthy and happy, and they are just waiting for us to contact them. And if we reach out and say, hey, is there anybody there that can help me get over this hump? Can give me some guidance and advice as to how I can shift this energy, as to how I can move forward? Trust me, an ancestor will step forward, take your hand, and guide you to wherever you need to go.
I love that. How beautiful. I wrote it down. We have the strength and courage of the survivors, which is a really lovely way to think about the gifts versus maybe the not so great things. Thank you. Authors, to all of you, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody.
And thank you for inviting us and letting us speak to our topics and to the people who are listening.
So you guys know there's a little bit more coming up, right? Join us on October 27th at noon Eastern, when we're going to be celebrating with the live stream book launch party on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I have you hooked up down there in the show notes with that link, as well as all of these experts that you see and are hearing today, their websites, you guys. And honestly, I don't know of a more generous community. So if something that's one of our authors said resonated with you, come on down, click on their website, take an exploration step and go and see what they're offering and understand this at the next level. Ask your questions, reach out for support. They are there to help you and serve in all of those different ways. Thank you all for being those kinds of people. If you're listening to this after October 27th, well, that means the book is ready on Amazon, so you should go buy your copy. And lastly today, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Bye. Bye, authors. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.